Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Yueyang. This is one of the best torpedo boats in the entire game. We're playing it here in mode shuffle where people tend to push in. So combining deep water torps with people that want to be pushing, we're gonna have a really good time. Probably my best torp boat game I've played almost ever, maybe in a very long time. I can't remember having this much damage purely from torpedoes. Some of that is arms race, of course, we're going to get some buffs, but the principles here are the same as random battles, playing around the fact that Yueyang doesn't have the best gun power, certainly compared to things like Kavros. We need to play a little bit carefully around some of these guys. But we don't want to just smoke up and farm, we do want to provide some spotting to our teammates as well. This Bourgogne is looking like he's going to turn away. Something that has helped me a ton when playing these torpedo boat DDs is actually how much battleship I've played. It's really easy to predict battleship players when you are a battleship player. Maybe that sounds too basic, but it really is that easy when it comes to playing a torpedo boat DD. What's the battleship likely to do? What cues are they giving as to the positioning they want to be making? Bourgogne pushed very aggressively in, maybe to try and catch someone off guard, but he's very unlikely to push aggressive into this gap here, and we do manage to clip him with 2 torpedoes there. So that's really what the basics are with this ship. Very nice to have these deep waters though. There's almost no reaction time. Torpedoes have a different reaction time based on their speed as well as their detectability. Those are very 2 important statistics or stats when it comes to the torpedoes in this game. Deep water torps just mean that they don't necessarily hit every ship class in the game. Some of them only hit battleships and carriers. That's the Ajaccio deep water torpedoes. The deep water torps on the Pan-Asian line only hit battleships, cruisers, and aircraft carriers. You're not going to see them hit any destroyers. So that can be a bit of a downside. The bonus, though, is the detectability is like twice as good. They're way stealthier than standard torpedoes, and it gives cruisers and battleships almost no time to react to them. So if you're able to predict people well, as we can when we're playing other classes and we generally know what people want to do, these torpedoes are insane. Kaba pushing rather aggressively here. I'm just going to use my smoke right away. I don't want to get into an extended gunfight with this guy, and I'm going to swap over to armor piercing. That's going to do a lot of damage into a Kaba. That ship has 50 mil plating on its side, and we can get some full pens into him there. He actually would have died if we would have been a gearing, for example. Those torpedoes were pretty much perfect for him, and Kaba is legendarily unmaneuverable. It is so bad. The rudder shift's like 11 seconds base, something like that. It's like bad cruiser level. We'll use the torpedo reload booster there to get a second set of torps out, maybe for the Bourgogne, maybe if the Kerr first turns around. We know he's not going to go past the border, so there's no point in torping for him going past the border. So I'm just going to send some torps up the line there, and we're going to hope that the GK turns around to try and get back in the fight. And we land another torpedo. And that's going to give us a flood. These torps only go 13.5 kilometers, so not the longest range, but it's more than enough for tier 10 in my opinion. You typically want at least 12 kilometer torpedoes, maybe a little further than that, because of radar. That's what's really going to prevent you from getting in range with your torpedoes a lot of the time when you're playing a ship with closer range torpedoes. It's that radar coverage is just going to prevent you from comfortably pushing up to get your torps in range. So if you have that little bit of extra range to stay outside of radar, it's just nice. It's just more comfortable to play. The Bourgogne here actually does surprise me quite a bit. And fortunately our torps are back up in time. And again, we're going to use our smoke as a preventative idea here. We're really not trying to use it for damage, at least in this case. It's just to prevent myself from taking too much damage. And we do get enough torpedo hits in there on the Bourgogne to take him out. I don't think normally 4 torps would have killed him there, so this is an arms race buff thing where we certainly have an amazing alpha damage here with these torpedoes. And we've got ourselves our special commander. A little bit difficult to proc this Pan-Asian commander. but we are getting a little bit of a bonus there for hitting so many torpedoes. We'll look at the commander build a little bit later. But again, still running. I wasn't sure necessarily where the Kaba or the Holland were. There was some Holland Torps around earlier in this game, so I really just was playing passive and not trying to take an engagement with these guys. You'll notice the GK here pushing into our spawn, but what's he gonna do, right? How do you predict this guy? He might just decide to push down the one line, trying to keep all his guns on target, or maybe he's going to turn in, angle to our Littorio and Laria and Amagi in the middle, and then focus on this Puerto Rico. What I'm looking for, the reason I zoomed in there, was I was looking at his rear turrets. The rear turrets are always going to turn to the side that you're pointing to with your mouse, the side you're aiming at. So if his turrets start turning from his left side over to his right side, he's probably committing to turning all of his guns over and going in a straight line towards the Littorio, Laria in the middle of the map. So I'm going to torp for that. I'm not going to torp for him to go to the one line, because why would he start turning his turrets otherwise? And we do manage to get some torpedo hits in onto him. I think he's got his damage control available, so we're not actually going to get any flooding, but that is a damage control burned, and that's going to allow him to be lit on permanent fires. Or maybe if we can torp in time, you know, if I had used my reload booster, if it was available, I could have maybe landed a follow-up set of torpedoes, but we'll wait. And now, based on his direction here, I think he's just going to go back towards his teammates. So I'm not going to predict for him to accelerate any further or go any faster. I'm actually putting one set of torpedoes behind the gray line, because I'm assuming he's going to turn away a little bit. And hopefully that's going to happen. It's all about predicting enemy movements when it comes to torpedo boats. And it's something you learn a little bit while playing battleships, sniping at longer ranges, trying to predict what people do. It's a little bit what you do with cruisers. Certainly there's positional elements to that. But with torpedo boats, you really feel it. And that's a double flood, so we're actually going to take out that curve first. Over 200,000 damage already, 14 torpedo hits. Torp boats are nuts in this game mode, by the way. This is the worst game mode for a torpedo boat, by the way, because you already have the path that people are going to take in Airship Escort. So you just know where people are going to go, and you can just dump torps in on them. And Convoy is a little bit similar, since people are going to want to protect the Convoy. So we got the quote-unquote worst mode for this ship, and yet we're still doing an excellent job here. There is some luck involved with people pushing into you and getting the right flanks and positioning, but there's a lot of skill there too. And I think that torpedo boats can do an excellent job in this mode shuffle. It isn't just brawling battleships. The torpedo boats can do an excellent job. And certainly some HE farmers too. If you're really good at farming down battleships, DD, cruisers, they can do well too. Everybody wins when people push in. When people push in, there's just more options for closer range gameplay, and I am all here for it. These torpedoes were directed towards that Alabama, but you'll notice I torped the gray line was actually focused on where the curve first was going. Dual purpose torpedoes, right? I believe that was Flamu saying. He's totally right, guys, and hopefully we can grab ourselves a GK torp hit as well. Just barely before they run out. Nearly 300k. And we're got a comeback in this game. This is a match where we were down a little bit at the start. Of course, arms race buffs are so extreme that even if you're down a bit on ships and your team has so many buffs like this, you're still very likely to win. But you still have to play well, you still have to position yourself well. And that's the other thing about playing other classes, is getting used to what positions are other classes weak in. Where, as a radar cruiser, do you find you can just take advantage of enemy destroyers and kill them easily? Where does an enemy destroyer play against your radar cruiser where you feel like, man, I can't radar and kill this guy very easily? Start to play your DDs like that, in ways where you find it frustrating to deal with that enemy class. Similar for battleships. When is it frustrating the way a cruiser plays? When is it frustrating the way a destroyer plays against you in a battleship? Maybe start to play your other classes in that way. And that can help you to get better at positioning your ship, as that's really what a lot of this game is about. It's all about positioning and getting yourself into advantageous positions to take advantage of what the enemy ships are doing. That's really all there is to it. In this situation here, we do need to stall out the middle cap here. Anytime you're playing arms race and you have the option to stall this middle cap, you really do need to take advantage of it, because if the enemy team gets the cap, the points tick so quickly that the game is going to be over in like a minute, maybe 2 minutes. It's very, very fast, so it's really crucial to prevent them from getting the cap, or if they do have it, you just have to stall it out. Dealing with the Holland here, he's not really in a position to shoot at us, and we also have so many buffs that I feel very confident in firing at this point. Just waiting for this GK to potentially come around the corner with our torpedoes, and I think our teammates are actually going to finish him off, so that should help us to go after the remaining destroyers. And there's a Napoli yet, which is a scary thing to deal with, but hopefully our teammates will help us out enough with that. A few more resets here and there. Getting a little lucky with the blind fire, but you can do it. You can do it from a smoke or from behind islands in a more normal game. Here, very confident with the level of buffs that our ships do have. I think that Yueyang is a very strong tier 10 destroyer, but you don't have the firepower. This is the thing with Yueyang. It's got a trade-off where the torpedoes are so strong that they nerfed the DPM of the main guns down. It used to be a little different, but when they added the torpedo reload booster, made these it more of a torpedo boat, they cut the gun power just a little bit. And it's not like gearing, which, I mean, Yueyang was a little bit based on, was all that strong of a gunboat DD these days anymore. It's more of a hybrid to mostly torpedo boat. A more gun-focused hybrid would be Daring, which has much better guns than either the Yueyang or the gearing. Here, though, you know, Kaba's low enough, and again, swapping to the AP into Kaba, and look at those full pens, man. Typically, I'm not interested in shooting AP into very many destroyers, because you're often just going to overpen. But against some of the bigger destroyers, it's a really good idea, especially if they have the armor to shatter your high explosive when they're broadside. Then it's a great idea. But into normal destroyers, I will typically just shoot the HE. It's much more consistent, and then you're not wasting some of your reload time by swapping your shells. Every time you double-click an ammo type, you're missing out on maybe a second of reload when you have to swap between them. But the AP can do very good things, and certainly the torpedoes. 17 torp hits for 307,000 damage. Absolutely ridiculous. Nice space XP as well, coming in to carry this game through. As for the build here in mode shuffle, it certainly is easier to go with a full torpedo build since you know where the objectives are going to be, and typically they're not capture zones, so it allows you to play this torpedo focused build without having to contest caps with your gun power. That's something that when I play torpedo boats in random battles, I feel like is a little bit lacking. I feel like I'm letting my team down a little bit when I go so heavily for torpedo focus here and don't go more into some gun power stuff. Just because I think as a destroyer player, you do need to be contesting enemy destroyers engagements as well to try and give your team the advantage of spotting control, map control, cap control, that sort of stuff. And going so torpedo focused can lead you to a pretty massive disadvantage, even with the Yueyang, which is already fairly disadvantaged. Maybe it is worth it to, though, just full send the Torps on a ship like this where the guns aren't quite as good. You do have the option for a radar, but I don't particularly like taking it unless I'm in a division or something like that where I can guarantee my teammates are going to be very good at firing while I'm using the radar to catch someone out. Otherwise, I'd rather use the smoke because I can play more aggressive and use the smoke like I did in this game to prevent myself from taking more damage than I otherwise would. You can play more aggressive when you have a smoke available. The smokes are actually very good as well. They're not the gearing smokes where they last forever, but they also have a much quicker reload time, which is really nice. Something that the Daring, the British destroyer line has, is those extremely fast, short duration smokes that they come back very quickly, and you can use that to help you stay alive. And while Yueyang certainly isn't that fast with these smokes, it is still pretty quick, and it helps you to stay alive in a ship that doesn't have a heal. But it's very strong, man. The Torps are kind of ridiculous, the deep waters. The lack of reaction time is just crazy. I should really show you guys that. 0.8 kilometer detection with 76 knots of speed. For comparison here, there is a gearing with 1.4 kilometer detect with 73 knots of speed. So they're slower and have way worse detection. That's one of the main reasons that the Yueyang is so insane. It's just, there's no way to react to them. It's just They're on your ship, and you have to dodge them based on a hydro spot or your teammates spotting them for you, or it's a feeling thing where you just think, okay, the DD's over on my flank, I need to take evasive action. You have to do it before you see the torpedoes, unless you have a hydro or something like that. It's very, very strong. It's very, very powerful. When you're fighting it, it feels a little unfair. But that is the strength of this ship, and it does sacrifice quite a bit to gain those strengths, especially in the gun power. But that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.